So, of course, I finished doing that big work, which is this, testing the Tombow Fudenosuke pastel and the Trilogy brush pack at a slightly larger scale. And then I thought, I wonder how it would work for correspondence. So, of course, I used the lining template, which makes this very, very easy. All I did was drop the lining template on the pad, get the bottom of the cut to line up with one of the lines, and just ruled across, turned it at 55 degrees, as you can see in the corner there, and just ruled up the 55s. So I used the lining template to rule up the sheet, and then I also used a Rhodia 19 pad, which I just dropped onto the blank pad, and I used a Canson Marker Pad just to see what they would look like for sort of contrast. So, of course, that's the Tombow Trilogy set, and that is the Fudenosuke pastel for black paper. So the idea of the of the PAScribe Rhodia pads was for you to use for correspondence as well as practice. So I thought, let's drop some lines on, and you can see those 3mm lines. They just halve the 6mm lines because the black and the gray pads are they are lined at 6mm, and it's just a matter of literally putting the lining template, lining up the bottom of the cut to the line, ruling up, and then turning it and getting that 55. So it's so simple. And of course, it's the same thing here. But of course, for the white paper, you just line it up to the top. I think I lined it up to the bottom. And immediately you rule top and bottom of the cut, and of course turn it, and you have that 55. Really, really easy. And because the template is so big, it rules a whole sheet up. So ruling up a sheet of a blank sheet is really, really quite simple. So let's have a look at this. Now, on the black paper, let's use the lavender, because I really love the lavender. You can see the colors there. You can see how dark they are. They're really quite beautiful. Maybe let's just zoom in rather than bringing this up to you. And you can really see how solid they are as well. Of course, once I did this, I left it so that I could see what how it sort of solidifies. Now, these are soft tips. The chalk pens. And how I would use them is, I tried the black on and the gray on here. I would stay on the tip. And of course, I applied a little bit of pressure. I always write letters to my mother, so dear mummy is something I write all the time. And you can see that really starting to come out. Now, you can press and release. And so I'm sort of using my brush Spencerian there. Let's set that aside. Let's look at it on the, and then on the gray pad, you can really see, again, you can really see that coming up. Let's get the light raking across it. So let's try that again. And I really am not pressing. So if I press, now let's look at it on the Rhodia 19. And let's look at it on the Canson. So they flow really beautifully, and they work really, really well. Now I'm not going to look at the black. You can see that the size of the black soft tip. What I really want to look at is I want to look at the hard tip. Because I feel that if you're using the hard tip, because the tip is much more rigid, you'll get a much better experience of writing smaller, because it's not as flexible, so you're not having to control the tip too much. I kind of feel the tip really wants to work at 2 mil. Yeah, it's funny that the harder tip really wants to work at 2 millimeters instead of 3. So that's the Canson. This is the Rhodia pad. And they're both very different. I mean, the Canson pad is very different to write on to the Rhodia 19. And let's see how it feels on the gray. So obviously it's not going to work on the black because I've tried it already. And you can see where I've written and it's just not showed up, obviously, for obvious reasons. So it's come up on the gray pad. It's actually much sharper on the gray pad than it is on the Rhodia 19 or the Canson Marker Pad, and really quite different, these three things. Now let's have a look at what's going on here. So this is the Canson Marker Pad, and then this is the Rhodia 19 pad, and you can see on the Canson it's gotten darker. On the Rhodia it's getting darker, but it stays thinner, and on the gray pad it's really, really nice and fine. So some really interesting developments in using these Tombow Fudenosuke chalk brush pens. I really like them. I'm just a little worried about these girly colors. The pink is beautiful though, but the lavender, I think for me the lavender is the nicest. It has a real sort of, I don't know, it's really sort of beautiful and really lovely, and you know, I kind of always end up going back to the harder tip, I guess because I write smaller, and I really enjoy working at a smaller scale, especially on the black and the gray pads.